The Brexit ball is back in the EU's court as the UK waits to hear from Brussels whether it will get another delay to its exit from the bloc. Boris Johnson has paused his bill over the Brexit deal he struck with the EU after British MPs accepted the agreement in principle, but then rejected a plan to fast-track it through Parliament in just 3 days. The Prime Minister has been forced by MPs to ask for a 3-month delay to Brexit. But there's still a chance that some EU countries, such as France, could demand a shorter extension. Well, let's get more now from our political editor, Darren McCaffrey, who's at the European Parliament in Strasbourg. Hello to you there, Darren. So, Darren, what are you hearing? Is it likely that the EU will grant this extension? And if so, for how long do you think it will be?
The EU will definitely grant that extension. In fact, Donald Tusk has tweeted quite recently that he is going to recommend to the rest of the European Union that they should do so. The question is not whether there will be an extension. The question is for how long. Now, there are suggestions that I think most EU leaders are on board with this idea that it should be up until the end of January next year, but that it would be flexible so that at any point between now and then the UK could leave. But the one obstacle in that might be Emmanuel Macron, the French president, who has made it perfectly clear that if there is to be an extension, he wants as short a one as possible. We should hear, I think, definitely by the end of the week, how long that is likely to be. Anyway, let's bring in the thoughts of Sophie Endeveld. She is a Dutch MEP and joins me from the European Parliament here in Strasbourg. First of all, what is your view on the prospect of yet another extension to this process? Something that you welcome?
Well, I think it's necessary. Look, I think everybody recognises that this has been going on for a very long time. There is still, no clarity at all about where this will go. But I don't think anybody wants to pull the plug now and go for a no-deal Brexit.
You say that, but there's a lot of exasperation here that people actually agree with Boris Johnson, don't they? They do want to get Brexit done.
Well, but I think everybody realises that at this point in time, what we will get is a no-deal Brexit, and nobody wants that. So I think people here are cautious. And is there exasperation? Yes, there is. But look, that's part of life. It's part of politics. It's part of the challenges that we are facing in this world. And I think the European Union is, we have this tradition of compromise and indeed extending deadlines, and we're very flexible, try to accommodate, and very often that's been a pretty good method to arrive at a result.
Well, do you not then at least understand Emmanuel Macron's concerns on this, that he is saying that essentially we should have a shorter one as possible because we need as Europe to move on to other issues and not be consumed by Brexit every single seemingly day?
No, I fully understand that. And I think, look, the prolonged uncertainty also comes with a price tag. It doesn't come for free because we can see that investment is being stalled. Companies are relocating from the UK elsewhere. So prolonged uncertainty is not something that we want. At the same time, I think that any extension granted, should be granted with an idea of what it's necessary for. What are the next steps? Not just an extension and we'll see what happens. I think people also at some point want to know that steps will be taken, but one could be a general election, a people's vote. There are things that can be done. But I understand the exasperation. At the same time, we don't want to break more than necessary.
Sophie Endeveld, thank you very much indeed for joining us here from Strasbourg. The view at least there of one MEP. It must be said that, of course, this decision is up to those EU leaders. It looks like the decision will be made, Janat, via letter rather than an emergency EU summit. But as we know in this Brexit business, anything is possible. But as I say, the one conclusion that we can reach and say for definite is that the UK will not be leaving the European Union next week on October 31st.
And as you say, we should get a decision by the end of the week. Darren, thank you very much for that. And for the latest developments in London, let's speak to our UK correspondent, Vincent McAviney. Hello to you there, Vinny. So what are Boris Johnson's options now?
Good afternoon, Janet. Well, Boris Johnson has actually met in the past couple of hours privately with the Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn and their chief advisors. Apparently, Jeremy Corbyn wanted to discuss a different timetable for the withdrawal agreement should the extension be granted. But the Prime Minister simply wanted to know what Mr Corbyn would do if the EU didn't grant that extension. And the Labour Party spokesperson has said that Jeremy Corbyn reiterated Labour's offer to the Prime Minister to agree a reasonable timetable and restated that Labour will only support a general election once no deal is off the table. So the two men then clashed in Parliament, and Boris Johnson was asked by one of his backbenchers, Ken Clarke, whether if he is granted the extension, he will then bring back his withdrawal agreement or if he will try to get a general election. Now, the Prime Minister said that I'm waiting to see what our European partners say. So continuing to keep everyone guessing as to what he will do when, as expected, the EU grants that timetable. We're not sure how long that timetable will be, but the Prime Minister keeping tight-lipped on what he is going to do. One thing as well also picked out by the Prime Minister in his exchange, he was asked at one point and talked about his deal, and he happened to say that he got his deal through Parliament last night. Now, that is quite a claim. It is not true. It got past the second reading with a comfortable majority, but the Prime Minister certainly didn't get his deal through last night, but he might be road testing that message now ahead of a possible general election campaign, trying to claim that his deal definitely has support, but it is still susceptible in the stage it's at in Parliament to having amendments put on it, which could really derail all of this. So for now, Boris Johnson, like everyone here in Westminster, awaits to hear from Brussels on how long the extension will be. But certainly we definitely know the Halloween Brexit date is now off the table.